Okay, so here I am. I've logged in to the training site. And what you guys will probably need to do for your students is you can find them in one of two ways, which I'm sure you guys have figured out by now. One is through this Find Search area, and it will bring up any student who meets the credentials that you're typing in. So for me, I'm going to try to pull up Prince Harry. He's already up, though. So if I wanted to, for example, pull up Serena Williams, who we used last week and earlier this week, you can do that, and it'll bring up all of the students that you have access to with that last name. So we are going to go back to Prince Harry. You can tell we're in his profile by his name is up here on the top left corner. So that's how you know, and you can also see, since we are on his student dashboard, that his information is showing up here in the top part of the screen. So if you scroll down a little bit, you will see the student checklist. So you can see that we did do the student needs assessment. We did that last week during the Tuesday training. We did Prince Harry's student needs assessment. And then so next we have to do the support plan. So that's where we are going to start today. So to do that, we're going to go into this little bank of icons right here, the student support plan icons. And we're going to select the goal setting and support planning one and click that. And you will see that this is the current year for Prince Harry. It is the 16-17 school year, and I am the case manager. And over here you can see which affiliate they're in. So you can start the support plan by clicking this, I believe it's a box, an open box icon under the goal setting and support planning column. And we will start a new workflow. All right, so here is where we are going to set our goals for our students. So you will see that all of your baseline information that you entered in the needs assessment is pulled through to this area. So I'm going to put in the attendance rate, and you can see that the baseline that we had entered is already there, so you guys don't have to enter that twice. And the way that we are asking you to set goals is by setting a target. So anything that you set a target for in any of these metrics is going to be considered a goal. So please do not set targets for everything if you do not want them to be goals. That is the indicator that they are goals. So for us, we're going to say that we want Prince Harry's attendance rate to be a 95. And the target set date, that is the date in which you are setting that target. So for us, that is today. There's been some questions throughout in the past about what that date actually means and whether it is the date that we are hoping that the student achieves this goal. And essentially our thoughts on that and training on that is that the date that the student achieves the goal in our mind is kind of always the end of the year, the end of the school year that you're in, so the end of the time that you're serving the student. So the target set date is really for when you set that target. And so if you set it in December, maybe it's a new goal, then you would put the December date, so you know you only really had 6 months to work on that with that student. So here you're going to select the frequency of monitoring. As you guys all hopefully know, we do require progress monitoring at least every grading period, so that we will go over shortly. But here's where you can select how often you are going to monitor this. So some things you may actually monitor weekly if it's attendance. Others, if it's grades, maybe it's just every grading period. We're going to say weekly. And if I wanted to add any notes about this, I could select that checkbox and a little notes area would pop up. And I could enter whatever notes I have about his attendance rate goal. Okay, so now the other goal I want to set for Prince Harry is GPA. So again, you see that his baseline pulled in here. And the target we are going to set is 3.0. And again, we're going to select today's date. Because this is grading period or GPA, I'm going to select each grading period as the frequency of monitoring. And if I wanted, I could continue to enter goals, but I'm just going to enter those two for him today. So one little trick is that if you are clicking through these metrics to just kind of look, maybe you're looking for what the baselines were. If you decide that that is not a goal for you, uncheck the box or else you're going to get a little error that says you have missing data. But the minute you uncheck the box, that data is no longer required. But opening the checkbox like this and actually viewing the fields here is indicating that we are expecting them to be filled. So if that comes up for you all, just remember to close off that section that you do not want to set a goal for. All right, so we have our two goal set of GPA and attendance rate, and we're going to say save, and then the screen brings you to a question. So this is the opportunity for you all to set targets and goals in non-ABC metric areas. So we're going to say yes just to show you guys what that looks like, but again, this is not required. You can say no and you can skip right over that if that's not something you want to track actively as a goal for this student. So for Prince Harry, we're going to go down to social emotional learning, and we are going to look at the social connection. So because these are not ABCs, we have not set any baselines for any of these. So this is the opportunity to do both baselines and targets. So us, we're going to say there is some type of assessment that you are using at your school, and his baseline is a 6 out of 10. So we're going to say the baseline date, maybe he took that in the beginning of April, or the end of April, and then his target is going to be a 9. Whoops, there we go, 9. And again, it's today's date that I'm actually setting this target. So this, I'm also going to say this is maybe a monthly assessment, but again, you can choose any of these that you'd choose. And maybe I will put in a little notes here, SEL assessment administered by school every quarter. And I don't want to add any career readiness or college readiness or high-risk behavior as goals, so I'm just going to move on. But those are the 4 buckets of metrics that you can choose for your students' goals that are outside of the ABCs. All right, and here we add our planned supports. So now we know what our goals are, and we have to figure out how we're going to address those. So if you use this button up here, you can open this row that's about adding planned supports, and you can select the support category. So if you remember, our goals are attendance, GPA, and SEL. So I'm going to say for the attendance one, we're going to do an academic assistance and maybe some homework assistance. And then if your affiliate has put in activity levels into the system, they will appear here. But if nothing is showing up just as it is here, it just means your affiliate hasn't entered any activities into the system, so there's nothing there for you to select, which is totally fine. We are only requiring that you enter something for this category field and the support field. So here you can see the goals that we selected do pop up. So we are going to say that's for academics. And then the frequency of participation, we are going to say that it's a weekly program. And this is a Tier 2 support. And if you hit save, we're going to move on, but again, if you wanted to add additional plan supports, you could add multiple rows there. I'll actually show you in the edit field how you can, in the edit areas, how you can add multiple supports for that student. So the final question in the support plan is about how often you are going to formally check in with the student. So as you probably know, it is a requirement that there is a formal check-in with the student at least monthly. So these are the options that we provide you. So any of them are fine, but you just select what you're going to, what your plan is for that, and you can hit save. And here's a nice little visual. You did all of the forms that are on the left-hand side. Those are all also here and have check boxes next to them, which means that you completed it. So we're going to say done, and it's going to bring us back to Prince Harry's dashboard. And look, the student support plan checklist line is now green. So we know we did that. So we are on track for setting up Prince Harry. All right, so now I'm going to show you where you can edit the various information that you just put in there. So I'm going back into that goal setting icon where we launched the support plan. And here you can see that this information is now populated. So before this was completely blank, these two fields. So now you know that you actually have plan supports here and you've selected how often you are going to formally check in with this student. So I'm going to open this View Plan Supports, and you can see here's the academic assistance one I entered in the workflow. So I'm going to add another one here, perhaps for his SEL goals. And another thing to remember is that this specific support could be work towards two goals. So we're going to say it's going to work towards attendance and social emotional learning. And this is going to be monthly, and the tier is going to be a tier 3. Oops, my scroll is not letting me get to the save button. But once you...
Are you maximized?
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Gretchen to the rescue. Okay, so there's my save button, and then if you go into the plan supports, unless I hit the wrong save button, yep, there we go. They're both there. So you can add as many as you'd like, as necessary, as you're working with your student. You can just continue to add rows of plan supports. So we're going to go back to the student dashboard and look at how we could edit the baselines and goals for this student. So off of this gear widget here, you guys will get pretty familiar that this is usually a place where we have a lot of our edit forms. So this is where you can go to edit either the baselines or the actual targets that you've set for your student. So let's go into the attendance baseline. And you can see that this is the attendance rate we had put in. Maybe we made a mistake here, and it was actually only 30 days in the grading period. So you see that just adjusted the baseline calculation there for attendance rate. And then we're just going to hit save, and then you've adjusted your baseline. It's very similar for the goal setting. I will go in here, and let's go to GPA. So if I wanted to change his target maybe to a 3.2, then you can do that there. All right, so that takes care of the editing for the support plan and the baselines and the targets. So now we're going to go into progress monitoring. So we're going to go back to Prince Harry's dashboard, and in that same area of icons, there's a button that's called Progress Monitoring and Goal Achievement. So we will click there, and you can see here are our 3 goals: attendance rate, GPA, and social connection. And you see that the baselines and the targets that we just adjusted have changed here. So now it's a 3.2 goal, and now the baseline for attendance rate is actually 80. So I'm going to give you guys a few examples for entering the progress monitoring information so you can see what it would look like as you go along through the year. All right, so we're going to say that this review date actually happened on, well, we can say today, review date, first grading period, and then here for attendance, we need to enter the number of excused, unexcused, and days in reporting period. So this is very similar to how you set the baseline. It does all the math for you, so all you have to do is enter the number of days that the student was absent and the number of the days in the reporting period. So just for round numbers, we're going to say there were 10 days in the reporting period, and he was absent for 3. And again, I know we've discussed this in a few of the trainings, but for absences, as you are entering them. If you are unsure of whether absences are excused or unexcused, we ask that you put those all into unexcused. And then we're going to say what the progress against our goal is. So for this, we are going to see that it's a 70, and I'm going to say that is declining because he was at 80 before. But again, this is an opportunity to use your professional judgment. If it was still an 80, perhaps you feel like he's, on the trend upwards, and you could say no progress positive or no progress negative. So you can use your professional judgment on that, but you do have your baselines and your targets up on the top to reference as you do that. So we will hit save, and you see the data that we just put in there does show up right there. So then we're going to do a second grading period. I'm going to change the date to the future, since this is not real information, but this would typically be, as you go along through the year, the dates would progress. And here we're going to say he only had one absence, but again, it was maybe a 10-day period. But he's going up. We're going to say progressing. All right, so you see that we now have that 90% there, and our latest progress has actually changed from declining, which is what it was in the first grading period, to progressing. So this will reflect whatever the most recent grading period that you've entered data for, it will reflect that field there. So this works the same for GPA and social emotional learning, and any of the metrics that you all are tracking as goals, it will show the same. One thing to just keep in mind as you are doing progress monitoring, if you do scroll down a little bit when you're in there, you can actually see what the past progress was. So if you wanted to look at exactly what his data was while you're actually in here and you just couldn't remember from the summary page that you were just on, you can view that stuff here. All right, so goal achievement. I'm going to go for attendance rate again, and it's off the same area, final goal achievement. All right, so this is the page for goal achievement. So again, we picked our attendance goal, and so you can see kind of the baseline and the targets up here at the top. So here you can select the options for whether the student achieved the goal or not. These options are standard. They're the same that they were in the old system. So we're going to say that he did not meet, but he made progress, and we're going to enter his kind of cumulative attendance rate that we that the school gave us here as a 90. And the achievement date, because we are time traveling today, is going to be July 17th. And there you go. So over here you can see kind of what the achieved value was, the goal achievement that you've selected, and you can use this grid here as a visual cue to be sure that you've entered the progress monitoring for every metric, every goal that you've set for your students in every grading period, and also done the goal achievement once the time is appropriate, whether it's the end of the school year or the student is exiting. So speaking of exiting students, we will also show you that. So I'm going to go back to Prince Harry's dashboard. And in this student toolbox area, there is an icon for student enrollment, exit, and EOI status. So there's a lot you can do from this button, but one of the most important from here is actually exiting the student, which also allows you to do the end of year status. So here you can see that if we had already exited the student, this information would be complete, but it's blank because they are enrolled. So you also see here that the date says open, and on his dashboard I'll also show you this line here gives you a quick glimpse into the status of the student, so whether they're enrolled in the program. So this is enrolled in the program. You'll see that once we exit them, that will say exited. Okay, so we're going to go back down here to this student enrollment exit EOI status icon. And off of this gear on the left-hand side, we are going to say exit/EOI status. So this should be pretty straightforward for you all. The options are the same as they have been. So we're going to say that Prince Harry was promoted. He is also referred for next year. And I'll also show you what it looks like if we said the student graduated. Then you would have the option to enter post-secondary plans if you have them, if you have that information, maybe workforce, or if you selected a education, it would also allow you to enter the school that student was going to. And then here we ask for some alumni information for our alumni network. We are asking for it here because we do not want to assume that we have permission from these students to access to actually call them and contact them if they haven't explicitly said so. So we don't want to just pull their cell phone number and email address right out of the system and start sending them things. So we do ask that if this is a student that would benefit from the alumni network, that you do put in whatever the correct and appropriate contact information is here. All right, so I'm going to just say exited since we are saying that he is graduating. And I'm going to hit save. And now you see that this information just populated here. And then if we wanted to look on his main screen, you can now see that his status is exited from the program, and you now see that his end date, it used to say 9999 as the end date year. That's just the way that the system has to display kind of open, endless dates. So now you see that it reflects today's date.
All right, that student is exited.
So now he is exited. If you guys have questions, please send them to Gretchen in the chat box.
I'm not seeing anything in the chat box, so that's probably because Martha is so thorough and makes so much sense. Everything is super clear. But if you do have any questions, please let us know now. I'm not seeing any in the chat box. Do you see any in your chat box?
I will check.
Okay.
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us. I hope that that was all you need to know in order to track your students' goals and plan supports and how well they do throughout the year until you then exit them from the program. Just one additional note, I don't remember if Martha already said this, but for students that transferred, this process is going to be exactly the same for those students. Their end of year will just be at a different point during the school year. So maybe their end of year is going to be February or March or something like that, but the process is still the same. You would just choose those, the appropriate fields for that situation for students that transfer to another school.